All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever live taping of Burn the Talking Points. Give it a round of applause. For the past 2 years, so many of you have poured your sweat, your resources into electing amazing Democrats here in Maryland. Now, we have our 3 freshman members of the House of Representatives joining us for Burn the Talking Points Live to spill the tea about what's it really like to be a freshman in Congress during the time of Donald Trump. So we're going to ask them a few questions, and we're going to end with a game of rapid-fire questions. So if you like what you're hearing, make sure you give them a round of applause, because the audience, when they listen on the podcast, is going to be able to hear the audience in the background. So make sure you're making some noise. So let's start first with Congressman Olszewski. Question 1. Is Congress what you expected?
No. Look, for those of you who know me, I started my career as a public school teacher, and I very proudly talked about, I hear my teachers out there. We talked about how precious, but also fragile our democracy is. And to see individuals in this Congress who profess to care about their neighbors, love their lords, but really worship at the altar of Donald Trump instead, has been so hard to watch. I'd say the other piece that has been really challenging is the performative nature and how it's turned into clicks, and it's turned into getting on CNN or Fox or MSNBC. I would say all of the folks who are up here on stage, and frankly, this Maryland delegation, are there to do the work, are there to make lives better for people. And there's a way to get there, but that has been really disappointed for me so far.
Next question, Congresswoman Elfra. What is it like being a freshman? Not just a congressperson, but a freshman specifically right now.
Well, the upside to being a freshman is that I didn't wear them today, but we have really cool Team Democratic sneakers that are exclusive to the freshman class. And everybody else on the floor asks us all the time if they can get our Nike Dunks, and we have to tell them no, they're just for freshmen. That's about the only upside, Joe, is the shoe. We have an incredible leader in Hakeem Jeffries, and he's sat down with all of us freshmen for dinner. And he shared that he's not sure there's been a tougher time to be new to Congress than perhaps the Civil War, because we're seeing not even every day, you are seeing it every hour, a new crisis occur, a new way this president is trying to tear apart or set on fire our Constitution. And on top of that, being in the minority, and on top of that, the pressures that Johnny just spoke to. So it's been a unique experience, and we are truly living in some interesting times.
Congresswoman McLean Delaney, and just for our guests, if you can kiss the microphones, it's going to be uncomfortable, but the more you kiss it, the more people will like it. What's one thing about Congress that surprised you?
I have to say, I kind of had a sneak preview, as you know, on what I was going to expect in Congress, and I'd worked around in advocacy for many years. But I have to say, I have to flip it for a second. What most surprised me and disturbed me was the lack of courage by many on the other side who knew that what they are doing is not right, and they are not standing up, either because they're scared or because they have self-interest or what have you. But many people that individually I know and I really like, and that has been what has surprised me on the positive side, is how much I really love my committees. I'm on Ag and Science, Space, and Technology, and I have NIST and NIH and parts of NIH and Fort Detrick, and I love the research and learning about the research, and I've really loved learning about Ag. So that and just the depth of experience and learning, that has been something that's been really interesting.
That's awesome. Congressman Johnny O. Baltimore County, it's the constituents question. Who is a constituent of Johnny O? Remember, it's a podcast. You got to make noise. I see a lot of hands. So, Congressman, what is one thing your constituents definitely don't know about being a freshman that you want them to know?
Well, Sarah, so Sarah already mentioned the shoes, so I can't say that. There is not a pool on the rooftop of the Capitol building either. I think what most people wouldn't know necessarily, and I'll go back to the opening question, is just how out of sorts we've gotten from our traditions, the customs of the House and the Senate of having things like conference committees. We think about Schoolhouse Rock and that we would have senators and members of the House actually working together to resolve differences. But really, you have three men in a room. Right now, it's Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, and John Thune, who are really trying to negotiate and tackle a lot of these problems. And so I think the other thing that I would want to lift up is just how much good we're not getting done because we're in this moment. And I think that would be really surprising for a lot of folks to learn.
Congresswoman Elfreth, what is the holy crap, I'm really in Congress moment?
So I'm a Democratic deputy whip. So that means that it's my job to make sure people actually cast a vote on the floor. And I'm responsible for all the freshman Democrats. So it's about 30-ish freshman Democrats. And it was the night we took our budget resolution vote. So what kind of kicked off all of the chaos we're seeing right now with the Medicaid cuts and cuts to Pell Grants and cuts to SNAP. And so we thought it was going to be a really close vote. We actually, for a hot 10 minutes, thought we'd actually win the vote. But we couldn't find one freshman from California. I'm not going to blow him up right now. But literally, my staff ran to his staff's office to try to find him. I ran out to we can park our cars outside the Capitol. So I'm like looking in the cars to make sure, where is there you go.
Not going to blow him up.
And we could not find for like 25 minutes. And the clock's ticking down and the vote is dead even. And somebody finds him, he's at the Hawk and Dove having a beer. And there's no cell service in the Hawk and Dove. But anyway, we get him back. And now we have a whole contingency plan for every single freshman. I know their staff cell phone number. I know where they hang out. I know what bars they go to. Just in case we ever lose one again and we're a tight vote. Holy shit, I'm in Congress and it's my job to make sure the freshmen vote.
Right. Congresswoman McLean Delaney, what is one thing you wish someone warned you about before taking office?
I think that probably how, like I said, just how hard it is to try and change minds and hearts. And I didn't, I thought, I guess I'd worked for so many years and I thought I'd be able to work in more of a common sense, common ground way. And it has been a really hard thing to realize that you are not able to do that in the ways in which you could have. And then I would say, I wish that I had been told that you really do need to have your sneakers on. And like, I'm glad I got the freshman warning about the sneakers because there's a lot of walking. I didn't really.
That was a very earnest answer. I thought you were going to say how spineless Republicans are, but that is very nice too. So we're going to end with some rapid fire questions. You're going to have to pass the mics quickly. I'm going to read you a question. First thing that comes to your mind, you have to answer with, even if we need to clip it out of the video later. You ready? So here we go. Question 1. Not counting Marylanders, and Senator Warnock, who is a rising star in the party that you want folks to keep an eye on?
Sarah McBride, representative from Delaware.
Derek Tran, my good friend from California.
Not
that. I would say Julie Johnson out of Texas. She's very much a pragmatist. And Andy Bashar is also, I thought, was very interesting recently.
How many unread text messages do you have at the moment?
Just 2.
0. I read them all, but I don't always respond.
I have 3 phones between campaign, personal, and official. So I would say about 2 in each, or probably about 6.
Best debater you ever went against?
County executive race against then Senator Jim Brochin.
Well, I had Pete Hegseth in front of my committee today, so that is a slippery guy.
Other than my teenage daughter, I would probably say she would take it the most. But
we're gonna save it. We're gonna go back down the road this way. Not counting your family, who is one person in Maryland that has been really helpful with your transition to Congress?
I think the entire delegation, the Maryland delegation, which meets every month or so under with our senior senators, I was so incredibly impressed how they all had each other's back and they work collectively together. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Barbara Mikulski.
April's got me wanting to change my answer from Jim, all due respect to my daughter Daria, first of all. But our delegation's been great. But Steny Hoyer, you've been the dean of the delegation, and thank you for seeing the way for all of us.
Round of applause for Steny Hoyer. Describe the one big beautiful bill in one word.
Ugly.
An abomination.
Mean. Mean.
You get one word to describe Donald Trump. What is it?
Tyrant.
Weak.
He's a bully, and we beat bullies by punching him back in the face. Just one time, though.
And last one, what is your walk-up song?
Johnny Be Good.
Girl on Fire.
Oh my gosh, I got a couple. I'm trying to think. I don't know. My walk-up song.
Girl on Fire is pretty good.
No, they won't. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause to your freshman representatives in Congress. Thank you so much for being part of the first ever live taping of Burn the Talking Point. I would be remiss if I did not say, make sure you smash that subscribe button. There is an ad in your program. You can scan the QR code or it's up on the screen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep the good times rolling.